You are welcome to Tuga Media TV. Sit back, relax, and let's enjoy this inspirational story. Title: Sandra's Zeal and Triumph. Sandra had always been an exceptional student, a young lady destined for greatness, despite the tragedies she endured. From the time she could remember, her life had been filled with loss, hardship, and struggle. But in those early years, she also found solace in her studies, her prayers, and the undying love of a God she believed would protect her. Born in a small village in Ghana, Sandra had always been at the top of her class. She was a brilliant young girl, the kind whose intellect and determination shone through in everything she did. Her parents, who were both teachers, always encouraged her to aim higher, to reach for the stars, and never settle for mediocrity. They believed in her, and with their support, she grew into a young lady with enormous potential. But life took a cruel turn when Sandra was just 10 years old. A sudden and tragic accident claimed the lives of both her parents. She was left orphaned, with no one to turn to but her older brother, Kwaku. Kwaku was a hard-working man, but he was married to Mame Gyata, a woman whose heart was as cold as stone. Gyata had always viewed Sandra as an obstacle to her own ambitions and desires. She didn't want to be burdened with a young girl who might take attention away from her own children, and she never hesitated to show her disdain for Sandra. Despite the bitterness and cruelty of Mame Gyata, Sandra had no choice but to live with her brother. Kwaku, while he did his best to care for Sandra, was often under the thumb of his wife. Mame Gyata made sure to remind Sandra every day that she was a burden, that she was unwanted, and that she would never amount to anything. She was subjected to constant verbal abuse, her chores endless, and any form of love or care she might have received from her brother was overshadowed by Gyata's influence. Mame Gyata, an ambitious woman who wanted nothing more than to climb the social ladder, saw Sandra as an obstacle in her path. It was one thing to have a husband, but to have a young girl living in the house only reminded her of Kwaku's late parents and their legacy. Gyata, in her jealousy, resented Sandra for being the symbol of her brother's late parents' respect and status in the village. Sandra's only refuge was her studies, but even that was not without challenges. She had to study in secret, often staying up late into the night, hiding her books away from Mame Gyata's prying eyes. Gyata made sure to limit Sandra's access to any form of joy or comfort, always putting her down and undermining her efforts. But Sandra was a fighter. She had a spirit that couldn't be broken, a heart that longed to succeed, and a faith that kept her going. One day, Sandra overheard Mame Gyata speaking to a friend about something sinister. "That girl will never amount to anything," Gyata said in a harsh tone. "I've sent her picture to the shrine. She won't survive. I will make sure she's destroyed once and for all." Sandra's heart sank when she heard this. She couldn't believe her ears. The woman she had to live with, the one she called Aunt, was plotting her destruction. But instead of being filled with fear, Sandra felt a deep sense of resolve. She knew she couldn't fight Mame Gyata on her own, but she also knew that God was watching over her. She turned to the only source of comfort she had left, her faith. Every Sunday, Sandra would go to the local church. It was her sanctuary, a place where she could escape the torment and pain of her daily life. She would sit quietly in the back, her eyes closed in prayer, seeking strength, seeking peace, and asking God to shield her from the evil that seemed to follow her. She prayed for protection, for guidance, and for wisdom. The older women at church always noticed her, and they would often take time to encourage her. "Sandra, my child, don't let the troubles of this world get to you. God is watching over you. Keep praying, keep believing, and never give up." One particular Sunday, Sandra felt an overwhelming sense of peace as she knelt to pray. As the congregation sang hymns and the pastor preached, she felt God's presence more profoundly than ever. It was as if God had wrapped his arms around her, and for the first time in a long while, Sandra felt safe. She could hear his voice in her heart, telling her to keep going, to keep trusting in him. Days turned into months, and Sandra's faith grew stronger. No matter how cruel Mame Gyata became, Sandra never let her spirit be crushed. She continued her studies, doing her best to excel in everything. Her diligence paid off, and Sandra graduated at the top of her class. She received a scholarship to attend university, a testament to her hard work and the power of her unwavering faith. By the time Sandra was in her early 20s, she had completed her degree in business administration. Her reputation as a brilliant and hard-working young woman had spread throughout the city, and soon she was offered a lucrative job at a multinational company. She was on her way to achieving her dreams, and though she had faced so many obstacles, she had come out victorious. But her success was not without its challenges. Even as she excelled in her career, Mami Gyada continued her attempts to bring her down. Gyada, unable to stand seeing Sandra succeed, tried every trick in the book to sabotage her. But no matter what Gyada did, Sandra's life only seemed to improve. It was as though God was shielding her, protecting her from every evil plot. Sandra soon caught the eye of a man named Mr. Stephen, a well-respected medical doctor in the city. Stephen had heard of Sandra's intelligence, her beauty, and her grace. He was taken by her kindness and warmth, and after several months of getting to know each other, he proposed. Sandra, although hesitant at first, eventually accepted. She had never been in love before, and after all the trials and tribulations she had faced, she was ready to open her heart to someone who truly cared for her. The couple's wedding was a beautiful occasion, attended by family, friends, and well-wishers. It was a day filled with joy and celebration, and for Sandra, it was the culmination of years of perseverance, prayer, and faith. She had overcome the cruelty of her brother's wife and emerged victorious. It was a moment of triumph, not just for Sandra, but for all those who had supported her along the way. As Sandra settled into her new life with Stephen, she was at peace. She had found love, success, and happiness, and she knew that all of it had been possible because of the strength she drew from her faith in God. She never forgot the dark days when Mami Gyada tried to destroy her, but she also knew that God had protected her every step of the way. Mami Gyada, on the other hand, was left in the shadows of her own bitterness. Sandra's success was a constant reminder of the woman she had tried to tear down. No matter how much Gyada plotted, Sandra's life only flourished. In the end, the shame of her evil deeds was exposed, and Sandra stood tall as a living testament to the power of faith, resilience, and the protection of God. Years later, as Sandra looked back on her journey, she was filled with gratitude. She had faced the darkest moments of her life, but she had come out stronger. Her brother Kwaku, who had been oblivious to the depths of Gyada's cruelty, eventually saw the truth. Sandra had forgiven him long ago, understanding that he had been under his wife's influence. But the truth of what happened would never be forgotten, and Sandra knew that her story would inspire others to never give up, no matter how dire the circumstances. Sandra's life was a reflection of her unshakable belief that with God by her side, no evil could prosper. She had triumphed against the odds, and her victory was not just personal. It was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of faith in the face of adversity. Thanks for watching Tuga Media TV. Please subscribe to this channel for more videos.